Good evening, children. Now, here I am with a very nice lesson, a new lesson, and the name of the lesson is Going to Buy a Book. I know, children, all of you are interested in reading storybooks, but it will be more interesting if your grandmother or grandfather reads out a story for you, isn't it? Yes, especially a bedtime story. Don't you long to hear a bedtime story from your grandparents? And if not grandparents, from your parent, right? So here we go with a very interesting lesson. Going to buy a book. One day, grandfather gave my brother and me some money. Go and buy books, he said. We were both very happy. We both loved to read. Should we go now? Should we go later? Should we go today? Should we go tomorrow? We decided to go right now. Should we go to the big market? Should we go to the small shop? Should we go with somebody? Should we go alone? We decided to go to the small shop, just the two of us. We like the small bookshop. It is small, but it has many books. The man in the shop likes us. He always helps us. Should I buy a book with a lot of pictures? Should I buy a book with a lot of stories? Should I buy a thin book? I could not decide. We did not know which book to buy. The man in the shop smiled at us. Relax, come with me, he said. These books are about animals. Those are about machines. Those over there are about wars. Take what you want. I picked some books. My brother picked some books. I sat on the floor. He sat on the chair. And we read and we read and we read. It was very quiet. There was no sound. 1 hour passed. 2 hours passed. Finally, we knew which book to buy. The man in the bookshop smiled at us. I got a fat book with many stories. My brother got a big book with many pictures. We ran home to our grandfather. We climbed on his bed. He put his arms around us, and then we read and read and read. Written by Rukmini Banerjee. So isn't it interesting, children? As I read the lesson, you got an idea, right? As to where the two children went, what they wanted, and what they bought, and how did they come back home. All these things you must have got an idea, isn't it? Anyway, I'll explain to you, okay, from the beginning. One day, grandfather gave my brother and me some money. Go and buy books, he said. We were both very happy. We both loved to read. So children, of course, almost all the children love to read. Children love to read books, I know that. So in this lesson also, there are two children, a brother and a sister. So they say, grandfather gave my brother and me some money. Okay, and he asked that means he asked the children to go and buy books. The children were very happy to hear that. because they both of them love to read books. Now, should we go now? Should we go later? Should we go today? Should we go tomorrow? We decided to go right now. So now you see, they are thinking whether to go just now, whether to go later, whether to go today, whether to go tomorrow, and finally they decided to go just right now, just then. Okay? Should we go to the big market? Should we go to the small market, small shop? Again, there is a doubt for them. They are thinking whether they should go to a big market or to a small shop, or should we go with somebody? Should we go alone? And at last, here also they decided to go to the small shop, just the two of us. That means just the two of them. So at last they also decided that they would go to a small shop, and that too only two of them. Okay, brother and sister. We like the small bookshop. It is small, but it has many books. The man in the shop likes us. He always helps us. So the children usually go to that shop, and that is why the man in the shop, he knows the children well. So he is very happy to see them in the shop again. Okay, it is a small shop. Though it is a small shop, it has many books. Now, should I buy a book with a lot of pictures? Should I buy a book with a lot of stories? Should I buy a thin book? I could not decide. Now, one child could not decide whether he or she should buy a book with pictures, or should he buy a book full of stories? Should he buy a thin book? He could not decide. Okay? We did not know which book to buy. The man in the shop smiled at us. So both the children, they could not decide properly which book to buy. Okay? And the shopkeeper over there, he was looking at them and smiling. Relax, come with me, he said. These books are about animals. Those are about machines. Those over there are about wars. Take whatever you want. So the man advised him to take any book, whichever they want. If they want books full of machines, books about machines, they can go for that. If they want books about animals, that also are available. Those books are also available. If they wanted books on wars, that is also available. So whichever they wanted, they can have, he said. And he pointed to the different sections of books. Okay. I picked some books. My brother picked some books. I sat on the floor. He sat on the chair. And we read and we read and we read. So finally, both the brother and sister, they picked some books. And sister sat on the floor. Brother sat on the chair. And they went on reading and reading and reading. Okay? It was very quiet. There was no sound. Have you been to a bookshop, children? So there you might get a place to sit and read. You will find there is no disturbance at all. It's very quiet, isn't it? So in the same way, here also the place was very quiet. They sat down and they began to read. 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed. Finally, we knew which books to buy. So since both of them had books in their hand, the time passed like anything, and at last they could decide which book to buy. Okay? The man in the bookshop smiled at us. I got a fat book with many stories. My brother got a big book with many pictures. So the sister says that I took a fat book with many stories in that. And her brother got a big book with many pictures. Okay? So both of them got their choices. Okay? They got the choice of books. Now, we ran home to our grandfather. We climbed on his bed. So what happened, children? they bought these 2 books and they went home happily. And they climbed on, they went home happily. They ran to their grandfather who was waiting for them. And he climbed on his bed. Then what did the grandfather do, children? The grandfather put his arms around the children and then they read and read and read. Grandfather read the story and the 2 children were listening to him. Okay, on both the sides. So it was a marvelous sight. Did you like the story, children? Yeah. And here the new words are alone, bookshop, machines, finally, climbed. Climbed is a very simple word. Climbed means curry. Finally, avsanam. Machines, the tools, isn't it? Then bookshop, then alone. Alone means taniche. So these are the difficult words. Actually, they are not difficult for you. I know these words are very simple. So children, go through these, go through this story, through this lesson. Read it well, okay, and learn the spellings. Learn and write the spellings. And tomorrow we shall meet again in the class. Okay. So see you then. Bye bye.